We're talking about Anthony Cumia.
Anthony Cumia, half of the infamous Opie and Anthony duo. And to really understand his story, you have to understand the world. He came from shock jock radio in the 90s and early 2000s.
And for those who maybe weren't glued to the radio back then, imagine like Howard Stern, but crank up the edgy factor tenfold.
Oh, yeah.
They were known for their cringe humor before cringe was even a thing, you know?
Right.
Pushing buttons, crossing lines, feuding with pretty much everyone.
It was a whole vibe, and a big part of that vibe was their rivalry with Howard Stern, which, let's be honest, often felt like a battle for like the soul of shock jock radio.
Oh, absolutely. A total media showdown back in the day. And you know what they say about all publicity being good publicity? I can't help but think about, who could forget? The infamous grape fight between Cumia and Hughes.
Oh, God.
That whole thing was something else. It felt symbolic even back then.
It's funny you say that because when you look back, that grape fight almost seems like this little crack in the foundation of their partnership.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Underneath all the humor, there was some real tension brewing, and it wasn't just on-air shenanigans.
Right, and is that what that 2008 Page 6 article was about? The one that, like, blew up their spot?
That's the one, and it's important for a couple of reasons.
Okay.
First, it shows that even though Cumia's career was becoming more and more internet-focused, traditional media still had the power to really impact him. But even more interesting is that article kind of ripped the Band-Aid off of all the behind-the-scenes conflict between Cumia and Hughes. It forced all their personal and professional drama out into the open.
Okay, so we've got this already volatile situation, right? And then, boom, 2014, Cumia gets fired from SiriusXM for those tweets directed at a black woman he encountered.
And those tweets. We'll make sure they're linked in the show notes, but let's just say they were not his finest moment.
Oh, no.
They sparked a huge controversy about free speech, online harassment, and just how far someone can go, even if they are a public figure.
Yeah, you can't just drop those and not expect some serious backlash. We'll put a pin in that whole accountability in the internet age thing because it's about to become a major theme. But before we get to that part of the story, we have to talk about Cumia's next move. Instead of backing down, he doubles down and launches his own internet network.
Wow.
It felt like he was saying, oh, you want to play it like that? Fine, I'll make my own rules.
It was a huge turning point. He was trying to take back control of his career, his narrative, everything. Bypass what he saw as the restrictions of traditional media. This is where Cumia's story starts to become less about just one guy and more about the changing relationship between celebrities and their fans and this whole new world of online platforms.
It's like he looked at the internet and saw a big no rules, just vibes sign. But as we're about to see, the internet definitely has rules or at least consequences.
Yeah, and Cumia was about to get a crash course in those consequences.
Okay.
This is where things go from bad to disastrous. And it all centers around that December 2015 incident with his then girlfriend, Danny Brandt.
The domestic abuse allegations?
Yeah.
Heavy stuff. But what really makes this stand out even years later is that it wasn't just behind closed doors. This was 2015, the age of live streaming.
Right.
And Danny Brandt, she wasn't just someone Cumia was dating. Her father owned the Stress Factory Comedy Club.
Oh, wow.
So now you've got this very public, very serious accusation against Cumia, and it's playing out against the backdrop of his already shaky standing in the comedy world.
Exactly. And it gets worse.
Oh, no.
Because remember how Cumia saw the internet as this space where he could do whatever he wanted?
Yeah.
Well, he builds this whole paid content platform, his own little corner of the web, and what happens?
Wait, don't tell me he tripped over his own shoelaces, digitally speaking.
Pretty much. This easily exploitable loophole is found on his platform, and suddenly the guy who built his empire to escape what he saw as censorship is losing money and credibility because of a tech blunder. The irony is almost too perfect.
It's like he's starring in his own Greek tragedy, but the chorus is made up of angry internet commenters. Speaking of which, we have to talk about the R. Opie and D'Anthony subreddit.
Yeah.
This was Cumia's diehard fan base, and even they started turning on him.
Yeah, and what's fascinating is that before all this went down, people were already using the word cultish to describe that subreddit. Intense loyalty, maybe overlooking some red flags. And what's fascinating here is that this space, which was supposed to be Cumia's safe haven, becomes this digital battleground where even his most devoted fans start to question him.
Talk about your loyalties being tested. It's like that whole thing with great power. What is it? With great power comes great responsibility. But for internet fandoms, and things are about to get even more tangled because we haven't even gotten to the catfishing incident yet.
And let's not understate this. Cumia wasn't just catfished. He was led on by someone significantly younger, and The age gap itself became like this huge part of the controversy.
Right.
What's wild is that the person who catfished him was actually pretty upfront about their real age, but he seemed to believe what he wanted to believe.
Which for a lot of people fed into this narrative that had already been building this idea that Cumia maybe hadn't learned from his past mistakes, especially when it came to how he interacted with women online.
Yeah, it brought up all these questions about responsibility in the internet, right? Like, how responsible are we for protecting the privacy of people who become entangled with public figures,
Yeah.
even if it's online?
Especially when those people, and maybe this is a whole other conversation, might not even want their lives turned into public fodder, right?
Right. And Cumia, he's someone who built his career on pushing buttons. But the lines between pushing buttons and just being reckless, they can blur,
Yeah.
especially in the wild west of the internet.
Yeah, for sure. And in Cumia's case, it's not like things stopped with the catfishing incident. That photo of him and Eliana Kennedy that surfaced online, the one with all the controversy around her age, that felt like a whole other level of complicated.
Absolutely. With that photo, the questions weren't just about Cumia's behavior anymore. They were about our responsibility as consumers of entertainment. This wasn't just a radio show anymore. It was playing out on social media, in comment sections on gossip sites.
Okay, so we've gone from shock jock radio to Twitter storms to this whole saga of internet drama. If we're being honest, it's kind of a lot to unpack. What's the takeaway here? What's the point of this deep dive into Anthony Cumia's world?
It's not just about one guy's downfall. It's about how the internet has changed the rules of the game, for better or worse. Cumia, he had talent, no doubt.
Yeah.
But in the age of the internet, does talent outweigh bad behavior? Or are we all, even those of us who aren't famous, just one viral moment away from facing some serious consequences?
It's a sobering thought, for sure. And it makes you wonder if Anthony Cumia, with his brand of humor and his history, had started his career in today's internet landscape with TikTok and cancel culture and everything happening in hyperspeed. Would he have ever even made it? Or would he have been canceled before he even had a chance to build a platform?
It's something to think about, isn't it? Because the internet never forgets, and the court of public opinion, well, it moves a lot faster than it used to.
That's for sure. So there you have it, the wild, messy, and ultimately thought-provoking deep dive into the rise and fall of Anthony Cumia. As always, we leave you with more questions than answers, but hopefully some things to ponder about the nature of fame, the internet, and the fine line between pushing boundaries and facing the consequences.